What's up? So, it's plugged on, Keith, Tyler. It's weird. I don't usually introduce these things, at least when there's multiple of us. It's weird.
I guess it's a location-based thing.
We're at my house, so I guess it makes sense. But we got a movie review here. We got War for the Planet of the Apes. It is the third, and I believe final, in the new Planet of the Apes trilogy, starting with Rise of the Planet of the Apes from 2011, 2012. One of those 2 years.
Yeah.
And then Dawn of the Planet of the Apes from 2014. It was because it was the same year as X-Men Apocalypse. So
they make sure to tell you that in the beginning of the movie too.
Yeah, I couldn't help but chuckle and I'm like okay, I get it.
Yeah.
But it's a continuation of that story following Caesar, the ape, and I mean there's a bunch of other familiar characters. There was a lot of characters in this movie where, like, I know who you are. Like, yeah, you're, and then it's like, okay, like I remember the orangutan Maurice, and I'm like, and then the one guy's name is Rocket, and I'm like, yeah, I remember you. And then there's the other one, I don't know, what was it, Luca? I'm like, you were probably there. I don't remember him, but sure.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I thought this movie was very good.
This might be my favorite movie of the year.
I'm currently debating whether or not where it ranks up to Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, but it's pretty close. It's really good. So, yeah. Try to think of some stuff. So, I think let's talk about the CG, because that's like the biggest thing in this movie. It's like how everything looks. It looks real. Like, that's been happening a lot in movies. Like, I remember The Jungle Book last year was another example where it's like you look at some of these CG animals and it's just like, good God. Like, it's, are they the real thing? And there's a lot of times where, especially like Maurice, the orangutan, or like just a lot of the background ones, it's like, they look really good.
Yeah, they absolutely do. There were some scenes where, like, they were kind of like zoomed in sort of on their faces and stuff, and it's like, this is kind of scary how real it is. I mean, it's crazy. I can't imagine the amount of like rendering horsepower they need
to do that,
to make that happen, and to do it on, because there's a lot of them too at times, and it's like, especially like right in the beginning, which isn't really a spoiler, but like Caesar's walking through and all the apes are kind of like going to the side almost.
And they all kind of, it's also the thing is that it's not like, here, we're just going to have a couple and then, it's like they're each like individually crafted, and it's like,
and then they go from first person from his view and to like third person kind of in front of his face sort of thing. And it's like, this just looks phenomenal. And then even some of the like photography type stuff of like lighting and the 6 shots that we always talk about, like, just fucking
there was a good number of 6 shots in this movie.
Yeah.
Speaking of like those characters, like, I mean, Andy Serkis is Caesar. Andy Serkis is the best actor whom you rarely ever see his face.
Yeah.
And I think this was a good Caesar thing, because there was some cool stuff where they referenced Koba from the last movie, and I thought it did some good stuff for Caesar's character and kind of built him up, because this is, I feel, a lot more personal movie than even the last one.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. Like, the Rise of the Planet of the Apes was like a personal movie because it's a lot about Caesar and whatnot, but then the last one was kind of more general. And they kind of bring it back. If we do a spoiler section at the end, we'll maybe talk about what actually happens. And I think he did just like a good job of just capturing this kind of quiet intensity that Caesar has about him. It's just kind of just brooding, kind of, he's angry a lot of the time, so you feel that just looking at him, which I thought was really good. Which, I mean, I know like the way they do that is they just put Andy Serkis in a suit and put a camera on his face, so that's him. He's dictating the body language, which is also, that's cool.
Yeah, definitely. And I really like his character, especially in this movie, because, I mean, he goes through a lot of different things, and you always know he wants to do the right thing.
Yeah.
But it's whether he will actually do it or not. And there's times where they played it out just so well, where it's like I really don't know what he's going to do, but I know what he wants to do, type of thing. And this movie, it's called War for the Planet of the Apes. It's sort of kind of not really a war
it's
in
his
a way.
personal war.
Exactly. It's way more personal. Like, it's a revenge story in a way. Like, it gets to that point. And I thought that was cool. It was not where I thought it was going to go. I thought it was going to be this, like, non-stop action type of thing. There's this gap in the middle of the movie for a long time where there's really not a lot of action at all. And that's like my favorite part.
Because that's when it gets deep in that whole section. Yeah, there's, hearing it, this was War for the Planet of the Apes, I immediately assumed, like, a flashback Dawn of the Planet of the Apes with a chimp riding on a horse with a machine gun. And that's when, like, I'm thinking that for like 10 times, and I'm like, so that's what this movie's going to be. And I'm glad that it's not, because I feel like then that would just get bogged down by all that stuff.
When there is action, though, I mean, it was pretty damn brutal at times, especially in the beginning. There's a certain moment that happens, and I'm just like, wow. And towards the end, too, there's some pretty damn brutal moments. And then it also, I mean, this movie gets to some really just interesting places that I never thought it would go. Like, it gets into, like, slavery,
concentration camp, labor
it's
camps.
It's like, wow, and they really portray it in a pretty good way, a pretty brutal way. But then there's also just some very powerful, like, character moments and just quieter moments, slower moments that end up being my favorite parts of the movie. And it was the same way with, like, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes too. Like, both of these movies, and I haven't seen Rise of the Planet of the Apes in a while, so that might apply too. But at least the last two, they can be pretty slow at times.
Yeah.
But it's deliberately slow, and it's thoughtfully slow, and it pays off almost all the time.
Yeah.
In my opinion. I love it. Like, those type of moments, like, they really hit you. But I like this movie, too, because they injected some, like, comedy into it with a certain character.
Yeah, there's
really awesome. Apparently he's actually called Bad Ape.
Bad Ape.
But he's hilarious. So it's like, they have moments that'll make you smile and just make you laugh, and then moments where you just want to cry, and moments where you're just, like, pissed off because something happened to somebody that, you liked. It's definitely like a roller coaster of emotions, and even when there was comedy, I thought it wasn't, like, forced or injected in a weird way to me personally, in like this weird Marvel way.
Yeah,
I liked it. So.
I that's one of the things I think this movie definitely does better than Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is a really dark movie.
Yeah,
like it's really.
And it's super serious all the time from start to finish for like 2.5 hours.
Whereas specifically there's Nova, that's a reference to the first two Planet of the Apes movies. And then again there's the character Bad Ape, in which, he's like you said, the comic relief, but then at the same time it's kind of like almost this, you feel bad for him because it's like he hasn't had any human interaction, but you know what I mean. It's a terrible pun, but and then you have Nova, which is like another instance, like in Logan, where you have this young actress who is like doesn't really talk much, but doesn't need it to just be powerful at times. It's like,
and that her character did not go where I thought it was going to go, like, at all in this movie. But I love the direction that they took it. It's cool. I mean. Yeah, we'll get to that with spoilers.
I think the last thing character-wise would be the Colonel, played by Woody Harrelson. Yeah. He did a fantastic job.
Yes.
Because he did something kind of something similar they did with Koba. Because one thing about Koba that made him a great villain was he wasn't wrong, necessarily. And the same thing kind of with Woody Harrelson's character. You look at him and it's this weird duality that I kept feeling without him, which is like you feel for him at times and some of the stuff that he claims that he had to do and stuff like that. But then you look at his other actions and it's like, I don't like you.
Yeah.
And it's I'm surprised he managed to pull off this kind of like super, again, being the bad guy, but then also be super relatable at the same time.
Yeah, like, for a long time, they paint him as such an asshole without even really putting him on screen at all. And you're just like, I hate this guy. And I've seen him once for like 10 seconds.
He's probably only in the movie for like 20 minutes, 25 minutes or so.
Yeah. And they could have totally made him so generic, but I thought they gave him, like, he is a bad guy, but they also made you feel for him, like he said, and like you kind of go, okay, what you did's probably not good, but I can kind of see.
If I was put in the
smart move.
If I was put in the situation, could I honestly say I would act any differently? It's
Woody Harrelson's a phenomenal actor. I really like watching this about anything.
He's just good in everything.
Yeah.
And so, there's a lot of good stuff like that. We talked a little bit about the cinematography. Like, I thought the sets and the areas were really cool. And
the one thing I want to point out is the soundtrack. I think the score to this movie is phenomenal. And it stands out way more to me than the past two movies. And at times, the soundtrack felt like something like older.
Yeah.
In a weird way. Like,
I
haven't seen any of the original Planet of the Apes movies, but like something in that time, like not a 2017 vibe to the soundtrack. And I loved that. I was like, this just makes it feel so different than the modern day stuff that you're used to seeing all the time. And that was awesome.
Which, speaking of like references to the originals, like besides Nova, they make a reference to Cornelius, who is a character in the first 3 Planet of the Apes movies. And they also go a little bit farther into explaining, even though I don't think these are hard prequels, per se, to the original movies, because the timeline just doesn't, especially with what the references they make in this movie, doesn't line up all that well. But, like, painting a picture of how eventually we got to that point in the original Planet of the Apes movies, which will be a little more of a spoilery thing, because that's very important to Woody Harrelson's character as well. So,
yeah,
they did it. I think they did a good job just weaving this complicated narrative. Yeah. And again, that's a lot of that's to Andy Serkis, and who carries a lot of the movie. It's another weird thing. Like, it's mostly him for like most of the movie, with other people kind of coming in sometimes. So, yeah,
I agree. And yeah, I think what all 3 of these movies do well, and I think especially the last 2, is that, like, I love the pacing of them. Like, yeah, they're slow, but like things are built out in such a nice way, and when things pay off, they actually pay off. Things don't feel forced, they don't feel rushed or anything. It's just one thing to the next, and it just feels so thoughtful. It's like natural. Way more than normal. Yeah, natural. That's a good way to put it.
Because
it's just so good.
A lot of movies, like, they just go, and it's like you kind of have to make a jump in logic. Like, why would you do this? But then it's like, everything just makes sense. Like, on why certain characters would feel a certain way and why they go about going about this action. And they all, especially, again, like you said, especially the last 2, do that. And I would say even maybe the first one kind of justifies it a little bit. It has also been a little while since I've seen the first one. But, anything else before we get into spoilery stuff necessarily?
No.
All right.
It's a phenomenal movie, man.
Yeah,
I love it.
Let's do scores, and then we'll get into the spoiler stuff.
9.5 out of 10.
I was gonna give it a 9 out of 10. I think solid movie.
Yeah.
I still might like maybe other movies from this year better, but this was definitely one of the better ones. I can't believe that I kind of let this movie slip under the radar for a while and just kind of be like, it was another one of these movies that came out this year where I just kind of discounted it, and I was just like, yep, there's Dunkirk, and there's Star Wars and there's Logan, and like nothing else is going to be really good. Everything else is going to be okay, and this is another great movie for a great year of movies.
Yeah, it's Logan's the only other movie that might like it's this and Logan to me
At this point,
as my favorite movies of the year. I mean, there's other ones I want to see, but I don't think they'll be as good as those two movies. Like, I just between Logan and War for the Planet of the Apes, like, I just thought everything is just so well done from like almost every aspect of the movies. They make me feel, and I like the endings. I liked everything else. The acting was phenomenal. It's like definitely those two, and then other things for me.
all right, cool. So let's get into the spoilery stuff. So yeah, I liked the all the stuff with humans becoming primitive, because that's very much like one of the weird things about the first Planet of the Apes movie was like, you know, it's a role reversal, and then you find out, you know, the big plot twist at the end, which isn't even in the books, because there is a book, the Planet of the Apes, that's not even in the books, and it's like, oh, you're in the future, so it's like, how do you get there? And they did a good job kind of tying it into the original with the virus or whatever that came out of the was it dementia vaccinations or whatever it was in the first one, and it's just evolving, and now people are going primitive, and again tying that into Woody Harrelson's character, eventually tying it into how he goes, which is kind of weirdly sad and poetic at the same time. I thought that was done very, very well.
That was such an amazing moment in the movie. Like, it's maybe a nitpicky thing. Like, it's not bad, because I think the way they did it was good. For the most part, it's like there's this section where Caesar and the Colonel are talking, and it's just fucking plot dump of stuff. But I thought they did it well, where they're like explaining a ton of stuff, but then they're also completely changing your perception of both Caesar and the Colonel at the same time as doing this plot dump and explaining this and that and that and that. And I'm like, wow, there's a lot going on here, but it's really well done. And then, so when he started talking about people going primitive now, and that's why he's killing him and all this stuff, it's like, I kind of figured he would go primitive, but I didn't think it would happen the way that it happened, and it was really well done, because I thought it was so awesome that Caesar didn't kill him.
Yeah, that's actually, it's a very minor complaint. It's just something, it's one of those movie cliches, which is like, anytime a moment like that happens, you know that's how it's going to go. If you're holding a gun, anytime in a movie, if somebody's holding a gun to somebody's head and they don't immediately pull the trigger, they're not going to kill them. It's like one thing. I almost would have liked it if he would have looked at him, maybe picked up the gun, and then just kind of like, you know, it's just one of those cliche things. It's just like,
but you could tell with the acting from Andy Serkis, though, that like Caesar really wanted to, like he really fucking wanted to kill him, but he's like, nah, we're better than that. We can be better than that. You know, we're not just these crazy apes. You know,
we're not primitive in a weird way. And which, I mean, he's justified. I mean, in the beginning of the movie, you know, he kills his wife and son, which is like, there's a lot of stuff from the trailer where I'm like, a lot of stuff from the trailer happened in the beginning and the end of the movie, which I mean makes sense, because those are probably the two most actiony parts of the movie. And then there's like,
they sold an action movie.
They did.
When it's really not. It's not fully an action movie.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is fine, I guess.
I really the little girl, I forget Nova. Yeah. Like, I didn't think, I loved how she didn't talk like the entire movie, because she's, you know, primitive
or she just
or
mute,
whatever.
Or whatever it is.
Or that too. But like, from the trailers, I did not think that is what was going to happen there. But like, her acting and everything, and like, it said a lot without saying anything, like words or anything like that, and she played a huge role in it. I just thought, like, her character was super well done.
Yeah, I think the two best moments with her was her and Maurice down in the tunnels, and she's like, She's basically asking, am I an ape? And I'm like, that's pretty. And then the moment where she gives Caesar water and food, I'm like,
that was good.
That's really good.
I really liked the moment where Luca died.
That was a really good one.
Like, not too long before that, Luca put like a really pretty flower from a tree in her hair or whatever.
I forgot about that. That's another good
Then
moment.
he died, and she's just like bawling, and she puts it back on him, and it's like,
no,
man, that moment just hit me right in the feels.
That's like Laura calling Logan daddy.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no,
Yeah.
just stop.
Yeah.
I thought that one didn't. I mean, this one didn't have as much of a build up because that one had like a whole movie, but it was still very, very good. There's the character. His name's Preacher. He's the main soldier that you get accustomed to. He didn't go where I thought he was going to go to. I thought for sure he was going to turn and help the apes, and then he just kind of gets blown up. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Which was cool because then, I guess Donkey is the character's name. And he like changes sides and then he gets shot. And I'm like, so those are some cool things. The movie definitely did keep you on your toes for a good bit of it. Especially with a lot of stuff like that. The long section it's basically like an allegory for like, the concentration camps and things like that. It's like,
and there was moments where they showed like, humans can be pretty like animal-like too.
We can be terrible. Like the one part that I saw was like the chant the first time they do it.
Yeah,
and they're just shouting. I'm like, that's like it sounds like it. I mean, that's literally something I would expect out of like a bunch of apes.
Yeah, it's like we're pretty much animals too. Like we're not right as humans. But we're not wrong either.
No.
Same with the apes. Like, they're not right, they're not wrong. Like,
I get the impression maybe that with the way that the movie ends with the avalanche, which was, I'll admit, an interesting thing to kind of throw in there. I wonder if that, like, because the way that they talk was that, like, it's basically the military that's left.
Yeah.
I wonder if that just means, at least definitely in this area, that, that was it. For people.
Do you think they will make another one because Caesar does die at the end?
I don't think so. I think he should leave it.
I think you should too.
I think these movies have gone beyond the point of. You can maybe argue it when they put out the first one. It's like, oh, you're just trying to reboot the series and make money off it. And they put out Dawn. It's like, hey, this is actually really good. Yeah. And this one's like, yeah, this is also really good. Yeah. It's like,
why are these movies so good? Because they probably shouldn't be.
They're better than the originals. Yeah. Honestly, the only Planet of the Apes movies that are really worth it is the first one, which is really good. The second one's okay. I really like the third one, and then the fourth and the fifth ones are. Basically, the fourth and the fifth ones are the last two movies that they did. Just not good. Really. These are the best. I've been trying to tell because my dad really likes Planet of the Apes because they had the Planet of the Apes TV show for a while, which I didn't know, which is what he liked. I'd be like, you should watch these. I'm like, they're really good.
Yeah.
And he's like, maybe I should. And I was like, no, you should. Yeah. They're like some of the best movies out there. So
yeah. I mean, I guess if they were to do another one, I guess it would just be called Planet of the Apes.
At this point, unless I don't know what other...
I don't know what the conflict would be at all, but... I don't know.
You could do Follow the Planet of the Apes and have humans come back. But it's like... that kind of undermines everything they've been doing with these movies. I mean, they've definitely painted the apes in a good light in these movies. And they kind of go... If you have Follow the Planet of the Apes, that immediately makes me think, hey, you're going to make them villains. And have humanity try. It's like... Yeah. It's not...
I just think with... Caesar's absolutely the best character. And he's the character that this entire franchise has been based around, at least these three movies. It's just, I feel like it would be really hard to do that because I feel there's really not another character that people could get as connected to.
I feel like maybe, in which it would be a weird movie to do, maybe Nova, maybe. And possibly, again, humanity's not dead. And it's more of an us versus them kind of thing, and who's really the most human when it comes down to it. That could maybe be cool, but I honestly hope that they just leave it the way it is.
Yeah. I mean, they could have some weird ass shit where like Nova starts breeding with the apes.
That could get weird,
goofy stuff going on.
I don't think go that far. Movies don't go that far, man.
Why not? Screw it. Throw $150 million at it.
Somebody will make it.
Yeah.
It's either that or it's a fan fiction somewhere on the internet.
Oh, it probably is.
It already exists. If it exists, there's porn of it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, War for the Planet of the Apes. Definitely go see it. It's definitely, probably at this point, definitely, it's very, my top 3 movies of the year, if not, definitely my top 5. So, check it out. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We got some other cool things coming up. I mean, there's a lot of movies coming out. So,
yep.
At least for the next little while, there'll be a steady stream of movie reviews coming up. So, yeah, we'll see you guys later.